little more energy in the room. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. My name is Kim Hunt, and on behalf of the Chicago History Museum, I welcome you to the museum and to today's programs of the National Archives Conversation on Rights and Justice, LGBTQ, Human and Civil Rights. The Chicago History Museum is honored to be one of the sites for the national conversations given in connection with the National Archives Amending America celebration of the Bill of Rights. We are particularly proud to be a site for the LGBTQ conversations. The Chicago History Museum is no stranger to looking at LGBTQ history and rights. I chair the Out at CHM Advisory Council, which produces a series of public programs on our communities here at the museum. In their 13-year history, the Out at CHM series has presented 39 programs which have looked at topics as varied as sexuality and citizenship, Chicago as a haven for advancing international LGBTQ human rights, and a look at Charlotte Cushman, a 19th century American actress who made a name for herself for portraying Hamlet. Through this series, the Chicago History Museum has engaged more than 100 local and national scholars, activists, and presenters, and welcomed nearly 10,000 LGBTQ people and allies as audience members. So it is entirely fitting that today's National Archives programs should take place here. We have all been welcomed here for many years. The Out at CHM programs have had such a profound impact on the museum that in 2011, the Chicago History Museum became the first mainstream museum in America to present an exhibition specifically examining LGBTQ history. Out in Chicago, how many of you have been to that? Clap. Yeah. Sorry to be so demanding in the morning, but Out in Chicago was displayed for 11 months and looked at the history of gender non-conforming people and people in same-sex relationships in Chicago from 1851 to the present. In 1851, Chicago ordinance stated that if any person shall appear in a public place in a dress not belonging to his or her sex, he shall be subject to a fine of not less than $20, nor exceeding $100. Now, I'm not certain what was going on in Chicago in 1851 that caused this ordinance to be written, but it sounds like it must have been a pretty fun place. With that ordinance as a starting point, the exhibition Out in Chicago looked at all the progress and setbacks of our communities have achieved over the past 165 years. No more was our history hidden from inclusion in the story of Chicago. But we all know the work continues, and the struggles for equality, acceptance, and personal and community security remain. So today's conversations are as meaningful as ever, and I appreciate the National Archives for prompting these talks. I'm thankful to the Chicago History Museum for hosting them, and grateful to you for your attendance today. So please help me welcome our next speaker, Faye Levin of the Board of the National Archives Foundation.
Thank you, Kim, and let me offer my own welcome to everyone joining us here early in the morning and those who are online. As the terrible tragedy in Orlando has made clear to us, it's imperative that we approach the discussion of rights and justice for the LGBTQ community and all other minority groups across the country through both a historical and a contemporary lens. That is why the National Archives Foundation is proud to support the National Archives series on national conversations on rights and justice. The National Archives Foundation supports the work of the Archivist of the United States and the archives and encourages a deeper appreciation for and engagement with the vast holdings in its collection, which is held in trust for the American people. With billions of records covering every conceivable subject, the National Archives offers something for everyone, and the Foundation seeks to encourage all Americans to use this unequaled repository of history to help them tell their own story. Each year, the Foundation provides financial and creative support to the National Archives Museum and its outstanding exhibits in Washington, D.C., as well as national initiatives like Amending America, which celebrates the 225th anniversary of the Bill of Rights. The Foundation also supports public programs and educational initiatives at archives facilities around the country, as well as innovative online educational resources for students and teachers, such as docsteach.org. To learn more about the Foundation activities, including the next stop on the National Conversation Series, please visit our website at archivesfoundation.org and sign up for our free monthly newsletter. Our work would not be possible without the efforts of our board members, including Diana Spencer, Executive Director of the William G. McGowan Charitable Fund here in Chicago, who was with us today, and the dedication of our private donors and partners throughout the year. I'd like to thank especially the supporters of this weekend's National Conversation, AT&T, the Ford Foundation, the Seedlings Foundation, the Chicago Community Trust, and the Elizabeth Morse Genius Charitable Trust. From both local and national perspectives, these supporters have gone above and beyond to commit to our Rights and Justice series, and we are so thankful to them, especially those here today, from AT&T, the Chicago Community Trust, and the Elizabeth Morse Genius Charitable Trust. To tell us more about this commitment, I'm honored to welcome Mario Camacho, President of League at AT&T. Mario Camacho, Manager of the Entertainment Group and Mobility Technical Development, has been with AT&T for 29 years and presently manages AT&T's DTV integration initiatives and environment infrastructure release availability projects. Mario also serves as President for League at AT&T Chicago Chapter, the company's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and allies employee organization. Mario collaborates with local community leaders and AT&T leaders across all areas of the business and employee resource groups to foster an environment rich in employee engagement, diversity, and inclusion. Please welcome Mario Camacho.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Chicago. It is an honor for me to be with you today and to represent AT&T, a company that is committed to making a difference in the lives across America. AT&T is extremely proud to support the National Archives Amending America nationwide tour as it travels throughout the nation, highlighting pillars of social progress in America. Here in Chicago, we are privileged to host this conversation on LGBTQ human and civil rights. For AT&T's 140-year history, we have evolved alongside the history of our country, and we can mark the milestone, the civil rights movement, the feminist movement, marriage equality, and still others. AT&T's story is about innovation and people. Our history of innovation has helped power social change across the country. And I think it is important to point out, for more than a century, our diverse workforce has shaped our company's culture and makes us who we are today. We are committed to fostering an inclusive workplace and being the LGBTQ community employer, service provider, and business of choice. This morning, I would like to shine a light on another aspect of AT&T leadership. We are the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and ally employee organization of AT&T known as LEAG at AT&T. And I'm honored to serve as the president of LEAG here in Chicago. Our group seeks to provide a supportive environment of LGBT employees and allies to develop leadership and professional skills, and to add value to AT&T by appreciating and promoting diversity both in the company and in the communities where we live and work. And it's so easy to be proud of the company we work for. You may have heard about AT&T commitment to progress on LGBT issues. We were one of the first major American corporations to adopt a policy prohibiting discrimination against employees based on sexual orientation. We're one of the first with domestic partner benefits programs for LGBT employees. We're one of the first to offer transgender inclusive health care benefits. And last year, we signed onto Friends of the Court brief at the U.S. Supreme Court to support the business case for marriage equality. Each of these was critically important to social progress. As our country looks to make progress for the future, it is important, even essential, to look back at the progress of the past. We are excited to hear more from the esteemed panelists who have gathered here today. And again, we thank the National Archives for allowing AT&T to support this important Amending America tour. Thank you very much. And now we can welcome Mr. David Ferriero, Archivist of the United States.
So I'm not David. Thank you for that, Mario. Please indulge me in one of many fangirl moments. David Ferriero was confirmed as 10th Archivist of the United States on November 6, 2009. And it's not in his bio, but I was talking to him earlier, and he is the only actual archivist who's ever been appointed to this position, which is pretty amazing. Created in 1934, the National Archives and Records Administration, or NARA, is responsible for preserving and providing access to the records of the U.S. government. NARA has 43 facilities across the country, including 13 presidential libraries containing approximately 13 billion, with a B, pages of textual records, 42 million photographs, miles and miles of film and video, and an ever-increasing number of electronic records. Previously, Mr. Ferriero served as the Andrew W. Mellon Director of the New York Public Libraries and held top library positions at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Duke University. Mr. Ferriero earned a bachelor's and master's degrees in English literature from Northeastern University and a master's degree from the Simmons College of Library and Information Science. And Mr. Ferriero served as a National Hospital Corpsman during the Vietnam War. Let's give a warm Chicago welcome to David Ferriero.
The summit brought 4 U.S. presidents, civil rights leaders, scholars, and activists together to discuss the future of civil rights advocacy in America. One of the biggest things to come out of the conference for me was the realization that there is so much more to say about rights and justice 52 years after the signing of the Civil Rights Act. And the idea for the National Conversation was born out of this need to continue these crucial discussions. As a federal agency, the National Archives is responsible for the Charters of Freedom, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, and for the collection and protection of, as you heard, at least 13 billion pages of other records that tell the American story and its continued challenges and successes toward creating a more perfect union. We've chosen the 225th anniversary of the ratification of the Bill of Rights to open the new exhibit, Amending America, in the Lawrence F. O'Brien Gallery at the National Archives Museum in Washington. The exhibit showcases more than 11,000 attempts to amend the Constitution since the beginning. As the permanent home of the Bill of Rights, no institution is better poised than the National Archives to not only celebrate the anniversary of this extraordinary document, but also explore its meaning for civil rights today. We want to use this moment to engage Americans in conversations about complicated issues such as class, gender, politics, race, religion, and sexual orientation through the national conversations. The content of the discussions will build on the National Archives holdings, connecting key foundational documents to the challenges before us. But our larger goal is more ambitious: to advance discussion of these critical issues in communities across the nation and to bring to the forefront challenges to rights and justice that persist 225 years after the ratification of the Bill of Rights. With the recent attack in Orlando, our LGBTQ human and civil rights discussion today is even more crucial. Much has been achieved in the last few years, but there are more challenges to face. For example, 90% of transgender people have reported experiencing harassment, including 35% reporting physical assault. 14 transgender women, mostly people of color, have been killed even before the Orlando attack. LGBTQ people can be legally fired or evicted in 28 states. The same is true of gender identity in 30 states. In 31 states, transgender people can be denied service because of their gender identity, as can LGBT people in 29 states. In 22 states, transgender people are required to submit proof of surgery to change the gender marker on their birth certificates. In 2 states, won't allow it at all. 20 to 40% of homeless youth are LGBTQ. Only 12 states protect LGBT students by prohibiting discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. And just 5 states and the District of Columbia ban dangerous conversion therapy used on minors. 4 states allow state-licensed child welfare agencies to refuse to place or provide services to children and families, including LGBT people and same-sex couples, if doing so conflicts with their religious beliefs. 2 states allow state officials to decline to marry couples of whose marriage they disapprove on religious grounds. From these statistics alone, it's obvious that there is much work to be done to make this a more just nation. Several national archives across the country, as well as other cultural institutions such as the Chicago History Museum today, will host the national conversations over the next year. Our first one, concerning civil rights and individual freedom, was held at the Jimmy Carter Library in Atlanta in May. Upcoming national conversations will discuss women's rights and gender equality in New York City, immigration, barriers and access in Los Angeles, educational access and equality in Dallas, and a culminating Building a More Perfect Union event in Washington, D.C. in 2017. I hope you'll join us for further discussions either in person or online. And now I'd like to also express my gratitude to our partner, the National Archives Foundation, for supporting this series and supporting all of the great work that we do in our education and outreach activities.